It has been 11 years since we got Castlevania Order of Ecclesia, which would also mark the 11-year anniversary of the last time I actually anticipated and pre-ordered a game. When Bloodstained Ritual of the Night was released, I was immediately ready to play and I tore right into it. For those who do not know, Bloodstained is a kickstarted game from Koji Igarashi from the Castlevania series itself. Iga left Konami when he realized they were jumping shark, and I mean seriously, what the fuck is this, Konami? Alright, so how did Bloodstained hold up to the Castlevania series? The first thing that is abundantly clear is that it's heavily influenced by Aria of Sorrow, where you replace a system where you drain special attacks and abilities by absorbing their souls with the same exact system except now it's shards. My first annoyance was the long animation every time you absorb a shard. Then I discovered you can turn that animation off. I highly recommend doing that immediately. When I discovered that, I also learned I can change the color of blood as well, so what the hell? You see this fountain here just doesn't look right. It's all red. Water should look more like this. Yeah, that's much better. One of the big things nowadays with Kickstarter games at launch is these games always are sent out with a ton of bugs and choppy gameplay. Bloodstained had little of that. It plays so smooth, just like Curse of the Moon, all the movement and attacks are so fluid, it's almost perfect. Though there were a few bugs here or there was nothing major throughout the game. For example, whenever Menu Miriam loses her head, you know the game's going to crash, though thankfully it only happened to me once. Speaking of Miriam, she's the main character in this game, and starts off looking as you see her here, but for some reason in about 2 hours into the game, you can customize her look. It was kind of odd that when I started the game she was looking like this, but by the time I got to the end she was looking a little different. Oh well, at least the barber is a funny demon.
Ah, there's a penalty for sloppy lopping. If I don't give my patrons good haircuts, the scissors kill them dead.
The other characters from Curse of the Moon all appear as well. In my previous video on Curse of the Moon, I was clearly saying Jeebel's name wrong. I now know this thanks to the voice acting in this game. But I was also wrong in that Jeebel is not Alucard. You see, Alucard is in this game. Here he is just ODing in the library and handing out books all game.
I oversee this library, Miss...
And yes, it's the same voice actor, Robbie Belgrade, from Symphony of the Night. His IMDb page even shows it's the first acting he's done in 12 years just for this game. Old Man also makes appearance in the game as well. He's so old, no one understands why he's alive. See, just look at how surprised all the characters are that the old man is still alive. Zangetsu is also here. He runs around with a samurai sword, still slaying demons. He's pretty crazy. Apparently we will get to play as him in the future too. There are a few other characters added to the game as well that are important to the story, but overall the story is that of a Castlevania story. It's there to exist and help build the world, not much else for it. Then that means the important factor is the world building and the level design. And that's where Iga shines, and where I feel he's done well again. He built a beautiful castle and created an interesting world design for the game. Everything has its references to Castlevania, but he changed it just enough to have something new. Is it his most creative? Well, not really, but it still looks and feels beautiful, just different enough to be its own game. The level design of the castle is great though. I find it vast and branches all over the place. At first it felt a little linear, but then the map opens up and you find yourself wandering everywhere throughout the world. The level design is what I feel is best about the game. Exploring the castle was fun and I enjoyed every bit of it, even when I got stuck at times. Sometimes to advance the game, it really makes you think, where sometimes items or shards are required to move on, and we're really hidden off in a corner somewhere. There's also room for ways to skip certain areas by using different movement abilities. I couldn't find the right way forward, but I was able to find the wrong way forward at times. I'm sure all the speedrunners have already discovered these methods though. It's still nice the way Miriam moves. I was worried it was going to be slow and clunky from the trailers, but my worries were for nothing. She moves and navigates the castle so fluid, it feels great just like the combat. But here's where I had a few issues. While the combat was great, it was also very easy. Even most of the bosses in the game were simple. I could out-damage them with a huge amount of DPS before they could defeat me. That didn't work. It didn't take long to learn their patterns and defeat them. A lot of the bosses weren't very memorable throughout the game, though there were some that looked really great as well, even if they were easy. The most memorable bosses were also the ones they used for Curse of the Moon, so maybe they were more memorable for me because I got to see them brought from their 2D version to the 3D version. Then of course they locked hard mode behind beating the game, a feature which I'll continue to express hatred for. You see, I found the weapon equivalent of the Chrysogrim from Symphony of the Night within the first 2 hours of the game. A weapon that was so versatile and useful that it made me overpowered early on, and was a feasible weapon to use even against the last boss. I used it to beat the first half of the last boss. And that's not a spoiler, all Castlevania games have multiple parts to their last bosses. And not to mention, on top of that, the sub-weapon I found in the same exact room as the Chrysogrim is his flying Kickstarter backer's portrait one. I may have had to kill this dude's face many times, but the sub-weapon he got me was incredibly overpowered, and the only one I used throughout the entire game. So thanks, Mr. Backer. So this is a Kickstarter backer I admire the most. Anyway, this weapon and sub-weapon combo made me almost unstoppable throughout the game, and I got these weapons almost right away. The balance of the equipment and everything seemed a bit off. I shouldn't be able to get so powerful so quickly. Even the weapon variety, while vast, felt like it was just the same weapon over and over again. Every great sword or katana you find is exactly like every other great sword or katana you find. The game has just a few weapon types, with reskinned weapons to look like variety. But there's also a crafting system to help you create a variety of equipment. If you like crafting systems and grinding materials, then you'll love this game. There's plenty to collect, and then there's plenty more to craft, including food, your shards, and equipment in the game. Though if you don't like crafting in RPGs like me, that's okay too. I mostly ignored it and crafted whatever I found along the way without trying. With little effort, you can get adequate equipment and not worry about the annoying grind. Though if you love this stuff, then you can get even more powerful than I did, which seems unnecessary for this game. Maybe the crafting system would be more relevant on hard mode. Though I don't usually replay games right away, which is why I hate that hard mode was locked, so it will take me a while to find out what hard mode is like. The game also has NPCs with minor kill and fetch quests that are just added in for completionists. They also use these as a way to put more references into the game. I can't help but notice all these revenge quests are for Castlevania characters. He also added some other great Easter eggs throughout the game, such as this hidden 8-bit madness level and secret challenge bosses throughout the game. The game will also have all sorts of free DLC in the future with different modes, such as a Zangetsu mode for replayability. I may wait until the game gets updated several times before I try it out on hard mode, but it's good to know that we'll continue to work on it and update the game. I personally feel the game looked beautiful, and Ego built a wonderful atmosphere and a new gothic style for the genre. The music was also beautiful. It sounded very much like a Castlevania soundtrack. There was no songs that really stood out to me, but it was very good consistently throughout the game. See, I'll let Miriam play this one out for you. I felt the game played great, with very few issues throughout it. The level design was its greatest feature, but it was brought down by the easiness of the game and its mediocre weapon and armor crafting system. As a fan of Castlevania, I welcome more games like this. I enjoyed myself from beginning to the end, so I plan to revisit it in the future on a more challenging setting and hoping it improves my experience. Also, there's a Shovel Knight mode, where everything's Shovel Knight.